everyone. Today you're going to watch a short video on the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I wanted to take just a minute and make sure that I introduced the video to you and told you a little bit about why we are watching it. So we are definitely in the history of American popular culture. So one of the major ongoing themes of the 1950s and the 1960s that really had a huge impact on popular culture was the Cold War. So you probably remember from your U.S. history class that the Cold War was this conflict. It's called a Cold War because there wasn't a lot of actual physical battles or fighting like that. But it was growing discontent between the United States and the Soviet Union over the issue of communism and the fear that communism could potentially spread. So in particular, with the Cuban Missile Crisis, this is one of the events of Kennedy's presidency, in his short presidency, because he is assassinated during office, which is one of the events we'll talk about as part of our 60s pop culture discussion. But one of the events that happened during his presidency that he is most remembered for and recognized for was his negotiation during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So basically, in a nutshell, what happens is the Soviet Union has placed missiles in Cuba, which is about 50 miles off the coast of Florida, pointed directly at the United States. It is as close to a nuclear war that the United States has ever come to. And for a brief moment in time, the world essentially held their breath to see what was going to happen between the United States and the Soviet Union. So JFK is very well remembered for his negotiation with the leader of the Soviet Union at the time, and ultimately coming to an agreement where those missiles were disbanded. Now, on the other side of that, I should mention also that the United States actually had missiles positioned in other countries as well that were a threat to the Soviet Union. So there was negotiation about the removal of those as well. So we talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis for a couple of reasons. Again, that connection to the Cold War and how influential that was to popular culture. But we also will look at how both the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis go on to shape actual pop culture artifacts. And we will look at, in particular, pieces of literature, and we will look at political cartoons, which is the focus of the activities that you're going to be doing over the next day or so. So I just wanted to be sure that I took just a minute and explained why we're kind of taking on this little bit of a historical perspective to this particular section of the 60s popular culture. So you're going to watch a little video that will give you a more brief but more in-depth look at what the Cuban Missile Crisis was and exactly what was at stake for both of those nations. That's what you're doing next. And then we'll look at some political cartoons associated with the event. Thanks, guys.